Hi everybody, we're back and we're talking about Super Smash Brothers. Now, there's been a lot of different Super Smash Brother games that have come out, starting with like the Nintendo 64 and onward all the way up to what we have now with the Wii U. So it's really been like a main staple in Nintendo's arsenal. And we all have played every one of the games, so we can comment on them. We're going to kind of go through each one chronologically and then sort of say what our favorite characters were or things we really liked or didn't like about the games. So we're just going to start out with the first one, which came out with the Nintendo 64. And anybody here play that one a particular amount of time? Because I didn't play it very much.
Oh yeah, we had an N64. Me and my siblings did way back in the day, and played it quite a bit on there. I didn't play it a whole lot because I was younger at the time, but I did played it a number of times, enough to remember it and all that, and I loved it. It's a classic game as far as Nintendo is concerned. It brought all the favorite characters.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I mean, really think about what it did for when it came out. I mean, like all of a sudden we had a fighting game with all these characters that are from other Nintendo properties that we love. Like all of a sudden I can fight with Captain Falcon. Isn't he from a racing game? I can fight Captain Falcon with Fox. Really? Like this is crazy. This is just it's unheard of.
I could beat the crap out of another Nintendo character with Mario. This is fantastic.
Really,
What
it
was
really
cool
was
about
though.
what was cool
Were
about
there
it
even
is
fireballs in that one?
oh yeah, definitely uses fireballs in that one. It was cool because before it came out on Nintendo, there wasn't really like a console fighting game. There was your standard arcade games. You had your
Yeah.
Tekken, you had Street Fighter, you had Mortal Kombat, but they weren't really to bring any kind of like fighting game into your home. And Nintendo took advantage of the fact that they had one of the best original consoles, I should say, and they threw it on the N64, and it sold like wildfire.
And on top of that, they were lucky enough to actually be one of the companies that was, instead of paying other video game companies to develop games for their system, they were developing their own content for their own systems. So they already owned all these
Exactly.
properties, so they didn't have to cut through all the red tape and try so hard to make it happen. It was so much easier than it would have been for any other kind of console maker in that time. It was really, I think, a testament to what originality was coming out of Nintendo back in the early days. I mean, nobody was thinking of doing
Oh yeah,
stuff like that, but Nintendo was always on the
Nintendo
forefront back then,
always ahead of everybody. They took, I think it was
except for the Wii.
how many how many original characters were there? There were
8? And there is there 8?
eight. I think there was eight or 10. I think
Yeah,
was
it's 8
between
or
the two, and
10.
I can't remember exactly, but they was basic. Just take the best characters from all of our best selling games, throw them in a game, and you can fight with them. It was awesome.
It
It
really
didn't do
was.
it was There was nothing wrong with the game back in the day.
And they also had like such interesting things, like when you would pause it, it would zoom right in on your character and it would make you feel like
Oh
it
yeah,
was a video camera, so it kind of make you feel like this is a whole spectacle fighting event that is being monitored by a bunch of people and you're controlling it. And they just all these nuances that they did to sort of create this really unique and original feel that they carried throughout all these Smash.
It looks like there was 12 Smash characters in the original one. They were Luigi, Mario, Donkey Kong, Link, Samus, Captain Falcon, Ness, Yoshi, Kirby, Fox, Pikachu, and Jigglypuff.
yep.
I'm so
That's
glad they got Jigglypuff in there.
they they needed
That
one
was
more,
nice.
and they were like, let's.
Well, there's so many Pokemon we can choose from. Charizard's really popular. Yeah, but what about Jigglypuff? Okay, well, what about Jigglypuff's second evolution? No, 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 no. Just
No,
Jigglypuff.
no, no, no.
Yeah, Pikachu got in there, of course, because you need Pikachu. So,
Let's be
It's,
really
it's the
honest.
face Pokemon.
We all know why Jigglypuff was there because it's the exact same body and code that is Kirby. They were
yeah,
just like we can
It
do
was
it
easy
again
for them to.
with a different face.
yeah.
Yeah, it was easy for them to do.
Which I don't blame them because back with the Nintendo 64, it was not easy to make video games. Not to say that it's easy now, but nowadays there's this whole market for it and kids are growing up knowing what video games are from the beginning of their lives and they're going to school for this so early. Back then this was a relatively new thing. I mean, this was bringing the video game to a console in your home.
Yeah, I mean, video games just started to really change at that point. I mean, I think that was when the Dreamcast and Sega came out, or maybe
Yeah.
not.
It was all around that time. Yeah.
Yeah, and like right before that was like the NES and everything, and that was the older bit programming and everything, so it was a lot more dated. So and so this was interesting. All the 3D character models.
They were
Yeah.
at that time they were doing what they could as the top dog as far as video games go. They were doing what they could to push the forefront a little, and I think that's what's really important about the first Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were still changing, updating.
And that brings us to what I would arguably say is the best console Nintendo ever made, which is the GameCube. And then they had what I would arguably say is the best game to ever be featured on the GameCube, which was Super Smash Bros. Melee. I played more of that than I'd say any other game at that time in my childhood.
Oh, for sure. Put a lot of hours into that game. Very specific memories of hanging out with friends, you two mostly, playing that game for just hours, just going back and forth between characters.
I mean, that's what you did. You'd get people together and you'd be like, who plays the game? And that's what you do after school. You'd go play Super Smash Brothers for hours.
Also, the roster like doubled.
Yeah.
Yeah, the roster was huge in Melee, and it was awesome. I think the best part about it being, the GameCube was also kind of innovative in the sense that it had 4 controller sockets.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you had the option to bring over a group of friends, and you could all be playing the game, and that was huge back then.
Huge, yeah.
The GameCube is considered vintage nowadays. I have a hard time considering it vintage, but that's because we played with it as a kids, so it doesn't feel like it should be that old, but in reality it is.
I mean, the GameCube was on the forefront of what a modern console is. They were at the early days. They were understanding that there needs to be more memory in these consoles, and the whole idea that there is a memory that you could put in and take out of the console was something that was used by Microsoft later, and even going to the PlayStation Portable even had memory that you could put in and take out and carry with you, and that was one of the first times that ever really came was with the memory cards in the GameCube. And
well, that's when I think Nintendo, that was around the end of the true innovation and the reign of Nintendo games, and then the 360 and PlayStation 3 came out, later on down the road. The Xbox and the PlayStation 2 were just super huge.
Super huge. And when I personally look at the PlayStation 2, I see a lot of similarities between that and the GameCube. I feel like the PlayStation 2 it's a more sleek and modernized version of the GameCube. Well, the actual Xbox seems to be like they're trying to take a more original step to it. That's sort of how I've always looked at those consoles.
Yeah, well, it's like the GameCube. After the GameCube, they decided that it really felt like they decided they didn't want a hardcore gaming console anymore because they wanted to make it more kid-friendly, more family-friendly, and that was the end of, the serious gamers flocking to Nintendo.
Which really overall is a really sad thing because, I think specifically for our generation, not necessarily everybody's generation, but specifically for our age group, the fact that they made that decision kind of hurts. Because I wanted to be all Nintendo. I wanted that to be my focus. I loved the GameCube, and when it came time for me to step up as a gamer, they weren't there for me. And that's when I ended up getting in with Microsoft and Sony, and that's when everything changed. This is just like you said, that's because they wanted to be more kid-friendly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, I mean...
One of the coolest things about the Super Smash Brothers, I think, was that, for Melee anyway, is that they introduced the team aspect of it. You could choose what team you were on, and you could have, 2v2 or 3v1, or you could be, one solo person fighting bots, pretty much, if you wanted to.
Yeah, they gave you...
Really cool introduced.
And the bots themselves, I think, were because when you play the original on the 64, you really feel like level 10 or level 9. is not that tough. And when you would play on Melee, they would give you a run for their money.
Oh, for
It
sure.
wasn't easy to beat the highest level characters anymore because they knew now you can have 3 against 1. Now you can have all these new kinds of things.
Yeah, I think the reason Melee was so good was because it was so fresh, and they updated the original so much
Hmm.
from the original
Oh
to
yeah.
Melee, so it kind of felt like a fresh experience. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so
And they.
updated. You got tournament mode and everything, and it's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
really,
think
totally agree.
what was so cool about it is that they went so abstract with the characters that they introduced with the two. Because you got to think in the second one, you get characters like Marth and Roy from the Fire Emblem series. You get the Ice
hmm
Climbers. You get Daisy from the Super Mario series. And it
Mewtwo,
was cool because they gave you Mewtwo and they were giving you
Doctor
so many
Mario.
options. Doctor, oh my god, I forgot about
I
Doctor
mean,
Mario.
Mr. Game and Watch. There's just so many characters that were in that game. But I mean, that goes to show. It's like you said, Jesse. That I think that marks the real end of Nintendo's innovation because we talked about how innovative they were and how they were in the middle of that. When you look at the original game and there are 12 characters, and then you look at Melee and God, how many characters are there? Had to have been over 30.
There's close. It's probably pushing 30 at least. I couldn't give you an exact number.
I mean, that's insane. They more than doubled for sure, and that just goes to show how many more game series they continued and expanded upon, and really grew
In
Nintendo
that
to
time
that
frame.
size. Yeah, just in between those 2 games coming out.
Kyle, who was your go-to character for Melee?
Oh, my go-to character for Melee was always Captain Falcon.
Yeah,
There was something really satisfying about actually landing
Fal-
a Falcon punch.
Falcon Punch. That's all it was. That's all we needed.
I was unfortunately a spammer. Still am. Uh,
Still,
I used to spam the Captain Falcon's, Falcon Punch, but now Falcon Hit is where it's at. When you really started to learn the game as a
Yeah.
kid and you really started to realize how overpowered Captain Falcon can really be if you know how to use him.
oh for sure.
Yeah, he was good. He was fast. He was big, So,
And
that
his
was the
finishing moves fucked you up the worst, I think.
Oh god, yeah. Man, you could
I'm
literally
going.
throw people and then light them on fire as you're throwing them into stuff.
My go-to was Marth always. He
yeah.
was one of the fastest characters on the game, and I liked having the sword.
You just liked
And
the rainbow colors as you shot forward with your sword.
that too, that was cool. Good effect. Good job, Nintendo. Proud of you on that one. But it was the I used to play the game like even when I wasn't playing with like friends or whatever. I'd play with my siblings, and my siblings are all a handful of years older than me. They've been playing video games longer than me, and I'd beat them every time with Marth, and that was just awesome to me that I found a character that I could just play with and be the best with.
I loved Marth too. Um, I played as Roy a lot simply because whenever you and I would play, we both wanted to be like from the same game series. So
Of
you'd be
course,
Marth and I'd be Roy. And I still remember the day I realized that the C stick is so much more powerful when you actually have a sword in your hand as
way
opposed
more
to just
powerful.
hitting them. That's the key to those characters in that game is using the C
The,
stick.
the C the C stick on the GameCube definitely helped a lot.
Yeah,
Jesse, who was your go-to for Melee?
my go-to for Melee it should seem obvious, but I always liked using Link.
Yep.
Yeah,
But I think the main reason I used him so much is because at the time I was a hardcore Legend of Zelda player. I played
Yeah,
so
you
much
were.
Legend. I think
love
it
that.
was I was the Legend of Zelda player there for a long time. And he's always been big with me, and so I just felt it was awesome that I could fight him against other characters. And so and I don't know, he I think he's one of the better just like solid fighters.
Yeah,
And
yeah, he is.
Oh
He
yeah,
has
throughout the years.
range. That's the scary thing about Link is that he has range, and and his actual movement speed isn't that fast, but his up B move can get you from one place to another way faster than most people's.
Yeah.
And so, like, Captain Falcon is one of the fastest players in the game, but whenever I would be chasing Link, all he'd have to do is shoot up with that sword and shoot up with that sword, and I couldn't catch him.
Yeah, I mean, I also like Toon Link, but Toon Link didn't for a Smash Bros. Character didn't become more playable until like the next couple of games, and then I really got into Toon Link. So
Yeah.
yeah. They brought him back for. I guess we can make this transition here
Hmm.
into. They brought him back for Brawl. He was one of the major characters they brought back.
Which,
yeah, and they made
which
his
is actually interesting because I do think that Toon Link in Melee was one of the most less used characters, and most people really didn't care for it. So it's
yeah.
interesting that they brought him back, and I think that now he's so much more accepted because it is fun to. I even have played with Toon Link in the very latest game and found it way more enjoyable.
Well, they changed him to the Wind Waker Link, which was a good call. I feel in my
Very
he's
good
the more
call.
cell shaded animated Link,
Hmm.
which was so I liked him more than the Aquaman because that was my really first childhood Link. Was the Wind Waker one
Yeah.
because that was when that was the
Well, whenever I look at the newest, well, not the newest one, the one that came out for the Wii, I was there.
brawl.
Yeah, I was there opening day. I got that game, played it, played the story mode. I beat the hands, and whenever I had done and I sat that game down, I really felt like I had a fun time with it, but it was not the same as Melee. I didn't want to continue to play it.
Yeah.
I
With
felt a
Brawl,
sense of closure with it once I was done and had played it for about, a couple weeks.
I Brawl the least probably out of all of them. I only ever got to play it at your house actually, Kyle,
Mm.
back on the Wii. And it to me, whenever I did play it, it felt like a rehashed Melee with like awesome graphics is all it was. But it didn't have that classic feel. It felt too new age to really
Yeah, I
feel
think
like
it
a Nintendo
changed.
game.
I think it changed a decent amount from Melee, and that's great. Kind of threw us off,
Yeah.
Where Melee was a fresh experience. This was kind of just like it was Super Smash Bros. But yeah, it was something a little different.
Yeah, yeah, expanding upon that, Jesse, I'm gonna piggyback off that. Like what you said earlier with like the first one was really original, and then with Melee, it felt like they just kind of revamped it, and it was a fresh experience. I wouldn't even say it was necessarily new because there was something nostalgic about it, but it just felt
Yeah,
fresh and it just was great. And that was the problem with Brawl is that it didn't just feel fresh; it felt different, and it felt
It felt like a different game.
yeah, it felt like a completely different game. So that kind of, not to say that it was a bad game, it just sort of turned a lot of people off who were looking for them to continue that nostalgic feel.
yeah, it wasn't that classic one. It was the updating fighting style was kind of a rejuvenation for it, but at the same time, it did kind of take us out of it a little bit because that's just how it goes sometimes.
Whenever I was whenever I was playing with the Brawl, I used Meta Knight whenever I was
Yeah.
doing the story because Meta Knight's the best character in that game. That was the first time they had ever put King Dedede
Oh
in
yeah.
in one
Well,
of them, and that was the first time I ever used him. And honestly, they did not do a very good job with the way that they set up his whole move scheme in that game. So I didn't like it, and I never used him again. But I'll
oh
talk
no,
about
Meta
that
Knight is
later
OP.
with the
I
newest.
used him the most. Yeah.
I actually
Uh,
learned back then. I had learned when there were tournaments going on that Meta Knight was so OP that he was literally banned from tournaments. You weren't allowed to use him.
That's great.
yeah. Well, what I
Yeah.
do like about Brawl is that it did introduce I think a good number of characters that I use kind of a lot in the newer
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the newer games like Sonic. Now Snake is not in the new one, and I'm so mad because Snake was one of my favorites in Brawl. I love Snake.
Hmm.
But Sonic, yeah, Sonic was great. I don't know. Toon Link was back in there and everything, and that's when he was really revamped and everything, and it was great.
Yeah, he
But
felt much better in Brawl to use Toon Link, and of course they didn't touch Link at all because Link has been untouched in terms of what his character can do in a Smash Brothers game since literally the first one. Because there's not really any way you can make normal Link better than they did. I mean, he's always just been
no,
like you
yeah,
said. He's he's comparable to Mario. He's just a great character in all stats.
he's
He's an
just solid.
overall character.
He's
You'll do good with him no matter
he's
what.
fast. He has range. When you get up close, he's not something to you have to really take it seriously when you're in a close fist to fist fight with Link in a melee game
Yeah,
or a Smash game. Which
yeah. When you're really good with Link, you're really good with Link.
yeah,
You're really good at the game.
I agree with you, Jesse, though. I used Snake a lot. Anytime I did play Brawl, Snake was cool.
I
And
know
Mario,
he's fast. Yeah.
Mario I used a lot in every game just because you guys were saying about Link. He's a good overall character. He's got just good base stats for the game, and it was just easy to play as him.
now I have a criticism of Brawl because my favorite character in the whole series is Captain Falcon, and I felt like the way that they designed a lot of the maps and the way that a lot of the maps moved around,
Yes.
like some of the melee maps did, like a very few of the melee maps did, and a lot of them did that, and that really, really puts a bad taste for Captain Falcon because he's so fast. It's kind of hard to control where he's gonna stop when you move from one side of a map to another.
Yeah,
And
the level dynamics in Brawl definitely you could tell changed from like the crazier levels on Melee. And I think that was interesting to watch.
yeah, it was. They also introduced the ability to build your own level in that game for the first time, which was interesting.
Yeah.
No, I think probably the best thing about Brawl for me was they introduced the Final Smash.
Yeah,
They
that
gave
is
us
interesting.
something that pops up on the map, and that's something everybody wants to get because it's the coolest moves in the game.
It's always fun. It's always fun to try to get that and then use it on somebody. So
Yeah, because like it was really innovative for the team because the moment it appears and kind of like wanders into the screen, everyone playing the game kind of goes, "Oh, our
I gotta
whole
get that.
mission just changed." Everybody there is like, "Okay, we have to focus on that." It's
yeah.
just a whole different strategy too to how you go about trying to get the smash. It just changes the game for a sec.
Yeah, and they did change in Brawl kind of the fighting style where it's like it's more of a technical fighter now, where it's like if you weren't as good at melee because of kind of just the simplistic fighting,
Hmm.
it got a lot more detailed, I think, in Brawl, and that's why somebody, could, I don't know, it felt like if
Yeah, I
I don't know.
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I do feel like they did kind of complicate the fighting a little bit. And I sort of found that as a turnoff
Yeah.
because that was one of the things I loved about Melee and the original. But that's probably just me trying to hold on to my childhood there because I like
Yeah.
Tekken and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. So I really shouldn't, you know, but
Yeah.
It's definitely. I agree with you, Jesse. They took button mashing out of it, which is good because that's all you had to do in the first two was
Yeah,
button mash, essentially, and you most of the time you would do fine unless you were
Yeah.
against somebody that already knew the technicalities of it.
Yeah, jump
And
around
with
button
Brawl,
mash, and now it's
exactly, with
more.
Brawl they made it where you couldn't really do that. You had to do specific move sets to do specific things. That was interesting.
They made it more like an actual like modern fighter in that sense,
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and I could see where you're getting at, Kyle, where you may be trying to hold on to the classic fighters and everything.
yeah, because I don't have a problem with that in other games. In fact, I enjoy it, and I enjoy the more complexity that a fight can have when you're doing more than just button mashing. But I felt like that was one of the reasons I loved Smash Brothers Melee because they didn't complicate it anymore when it moved to Melee, but then when it moved to Brawl, they sort of decided that they weren't going to hold on to that nostalgic feel. But that's kind of what we've been talking about this whole time with Brawl. Brawl was overall a different kind of game than the first two before it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just a different fighter, and
Mhm.
and you know that really that's why I think it was so divided. The reception that Brawl got, it was so either you hated it or you didn't.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
the competitive fighters out there, I think they really took to it.
Yeah,
Whereas kind of the old fashioned, just play with your buddies people kind of got turned off a little bit,
yeah, because I have games for that. I've
Yeah.
always had games to if I really want to sit down and prove that I can best one of my friends at a fighting game, I'm not going to throw in Super Smash Brothers. I'm going to throw in Mortal Kombat. You know,
Yeah.
but they did try to do that, and I guess it's good because you do need to get onto that bandwagon. You do need to modernize, but I don't know. I wanted to hold on.
Yeah. I mean, the competitive
All of
Smash
you.
scene is crazy nowadays, so,
Yeah, for real. That's something I never expected to say or hear. The competitive Super Smash Brothers scene is ridiculous.
It is.
Yeah.
These
Though,
people are
you
crazy
watch
good.
videos online of people going hard on it, and it's
There's people so good at these games.
How
now.
do you get that good at those games? Like I see when again I'll say Mortal Kombat or Tekken or Street Fighter. I see how people get good at those games, but I look at Smash Brothers and I look at the moves, and I'm like, how?
Yeah, I'm a
How
Soul
are you
Calibur
doing
guy.
this?
That's where I gravitate towards when I want to be competitive is Soul Calibur.
Soul
far as
Calibur. Oh yeah, I forgot you were about that.
as
Yeah.
far as competitive fighting games go, I'll always go to Mortal Kombat first. Always.
Yeah, I never had like I never really played a Mortal Kombat game until like the PlayStation 3 one came out, really.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
around that was around the time I first started playing them too.
Now that was a really good game in its own right, really bringing Mortal Kombat in the future and really changing it up, which is great.
Yeah, but I think overall, when you look at original Smash, Melee, and Brawl, you see the trend, and you start to see where it's heading. And when they came
Yeah.
out with the latest one, and that was the first time they actually gave us not only another console game but also a DS version, which was cool. So you
Yes.
can play Smash on the go. And I know Jesse has the Wii U version, and me and Alex have we have the DS version.
hmm
And I think they're both really really good. But
Oh yeah, I think what I like most about the newer one, the one that came out for DS and all that, is that it took Brawl and it made it more like Melee, which is kind of an awful thing to say. It kind of dismisses the game all on its own, but that's pretty much what it did. I think it just kind of made it more cartoony and a little
Kind-
more.
I kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that they maintained the complexity that they had created in terms of the different moves you could do with a character, and they further explored the final smash and what a character could do with that. And they also I think when I would say that I agree that they brought it back to Melee is when we're talking about the maps and the levels.
Yeah.
That I feel whenever I was playing it, I felt like it was sort of the maps weren't like Brawl. They didn't feel like they were trying something new. It felt like they were trying to go back to what was great about playing on Melee. And I don't know. I plus the characters in the game, I think they really just kind of they revamped some of the characters that they had introduced and made them a little bit better. Like Sonic, I think Sonic became. I mean, they kept most of his movesets the same, but I think he became overall a better character in this newest
Oh,
one.
yeah. I play so much Sonic.
I play a
I-
lot with King Dedede. I talked about him earlier. That's my favorite character to use on this newest Smash game, which I never thought I was going to have
Really?
a character better than Captain
Interesting.
Falcon. But I love using King Dedede. The way that
That's
they
first.
redesigned him and they made him more centered around the hammer, which was obviously what they should have done in the first place. And
Yeah.
it was so much better.
Yeah, I think they've almost in my opinion, I think they've almost perfected Smash completely at this point. They, especially with the Wii U version, they did such a good job. You know, the vision that they had with Brawl and really everything. I think it's finally, you know, I finally think it's where they really wanted it to be. And plus, there's so many characters now. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm
really.
looking at a picture right
And
now.
plus, they keep introducing the downloadable characters they came up with. They got Bayonetta was a big one that sold a lot of.
Well,
on the,
Bayonetta
Yeah.
is a really
store.
big game among Nintendo fanboys.
I'm telling you, Snake needs to come back. He needs to come back. I was so mad. I was
Snake
like,
Plissken, you need Kurt Russell to come back.
yeah. Also,
Always.
like, the characters I would say I use most, probably Sonic. I use Lucina a lot. I think, you know, it's
Really?
the Martha I
Lucina.
never really saw. You know,
Lucina is an awesome character. I like using her.
yeah, I like Lucina. I use Fox way more than I used to. I never thought I'd be huge into Fox, but I play him a lot now, to be honest with you.
I've always seen why people love Fox, but whenever I'm playing with him, it just doesn't feel right. I know what I need to do. I know what the buttons are I need to press to do the move for the proper moment, but it just feels sort of wrong in my hands. It's not what I want to be doing when I'm playing a Smash game. But I can totally see why Fox is so overpowered and why he's a character that people consistently go back to with every one of the games.
I
It's just
definitely
good.
used Fox a lot on Melee. I never really used him on Brawl, but I do use him a lot on the newest one.
Yeah, well, I couldn't get
Uh,
into him a long time ago, but I seem to be getting into him now. So
Yeah. I think my favorite character on the new one though is either the boxer. I can't remember his name. His name escapes me right now.
Little Mac.
Yes.
Lil Mac. Yes. Yes. I love playing as Lil Mac. I think he's OP
He might
in
be.
my
Yeah, I
eyes.
was thinking he might be the
Oh,
most
he is.
overpowered guy in the game. Because if you hit
And
anybody with that final smash, if you hit any group of people with that final smash, it's instant 3 KOs.
for sure, him and Greninja are probably two of my biggest that I use on that game.
Interesting.
You and Greninja.
Greninja and Lil Mac for sure. Mostly because they're fast though. I think if you got speed in this game, it helps.
That's why I love Sonic so much in that game. The ability to double tap B and hit anybody near
Yeah.
you with your supersonic speed is just the best thing they did with Sonic. It just made the character so all around. Like when I'm in doubt, I'll jump up in the air and hit somebody. That just gives me those couple seconds of breathing room where I can just kind of plan my next attack, what I'm going to do next, where the next item is I want to go get.
Yeah, Sonic is probably my best technical fighter because it's like he's one of the only characters I can like go up against really like high level people.
That's
You
how I
know?
feel about Dee.
Yeah. It's like he is
I guess I'll
my
have to-
competitive Smash character. So, you know.
I guess I'll have to play more as Didi. I never really played him as him a whole lot in the game.
I really
But-
like the reason I like him is because the way that he uses the hammer, you can just be crude about it and simply hit people on the top of the head with a hammer. But if you use him correctly, you can keep people away from you. You can hit people with range, and you can keep them kind of at bay around you without actually getting close. When he spins the hammer is the biggest thing for me, because if somebody is getting too close to me, I'll just spin that hammer and send them away from me.
It's definitely
Yeah.
like the jump thing with Link in all the games where he kind of spins with his sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those kind of situations.
So
Oh.
who's the character you said you used the most? You said Little Mac, and Jesse, you said Sonic, and I'd say King Dedede for me.
That's an interesting couple of characters.
We all changed, which I
Yep.
think is interesting.
Yeah, what's Alex's evolution, and we'll go through that. What's your evolution, Alex? Reiterate.
Do what now?
What's your
Reiterate
evolution?
your evolution.
I mean, first game Mario probably, just because he's that basic all around character. None of them really have a whole lot, like specialty wise.
Mhm.
The Melee is definitely Marth. I don't know if I have one for Brawl, but I'd probably go Meta Knight. And Lil Mac and Greninja for sure on the new one.
Kyle.
Oh, okay. I'll go. I'd say I'd start with Captain Falcon, and then I'd go Captain Falcon. Then I'd go Meta Knight and Captain Falcon, and then I'd go King Dedede and Sonic. I don't know why, but Captain Falcon just didn't really do it for me in the newest one.
Well, maybe because you played him so much in the first 3.
Probably.
Probably burned yourself out on Captain Falcon.
Yeah, I could see that.
Falcon Punch. I really can't tell you how many times I've heard that in my life. It's too many. I can guarantee you of that.
Too many for sure.
Yeah.
Jesse, how about you?
Well, I'll say, with the original, I'd probably say Mario. That was really one of the only ones, at the time that, and I don't even play, I've never played Mario really after that. And then probably Melee, I would say Link, good overall, solid character. Brawl probably was more Meta Knight. I did play some more Link, more Toon Link, and Solid Snake. And then the newest one, probably Sonic and Sonic, Lucina, and yeah, I would say that.
I think it's interesting that Meta Knight found his way onto all of our top ones for all the games.
It's like I said, he's too OP. I'm pretty sure he's banned from tournaments. Like, everybody who played that game realized that Meta Knight is really good.
He's not as good as in the new one that he was in Brawl, though.
They had to.
They've dialed him back a little bit, which is good.
They literally had to.
Yeah.
They were like, wow, we made a character that is very clearly more overpowered than all the other characters in the game. We can't not have him be in the next one, but we definitely have to make sure he's not that powerful anymore.
Yeah, because he's a fan favorite and everything.
Because the moment you put an OP character in a video game, yeah, it's going to be a fan favorite. People are going to flock to him, and everyone's going to support him. I mean, there's a reason everybody likes Goku, and there's a reason everybody likes, all the people who always win. So.
Yeah.
Back to life.
Overall, I'd say I love the Super Smash series. I will absolutely play the next one. It's one of the few remaining Nintendo properties that I continue to buy every time a new one comes out. And
yeah.
And I will continue to do so. They saved it with this newest.
Yes, they did. If you had to pick one to play for the rest of the time, you only get one Super Smash Brothers game. What would it be? Jesse.
Melee. Oh, you go.
No, go ahead. No, Kyle already answered. We know Kyle chooses Melee.
I'm just very excited.
We all are. We're very excited right now. Jesse?
As much as I love Melee, I can't really go back and play that as much as other people can. It's, I wasn't the greatest fighter at that, and it to me is still a little bit dated. As much fun as I had with all my friends, I think I got to pick the newest updated version. It gives me all the characters I want. It gives me options. It gives me a fighting style. I can seem to get really good at, as opposed to Melee. It seems for me there was always that little hump that I couldn't get over. So I can't really choose Brawl. And I can't really choose Brawl because of how undecided of a fighting game it really wants to be. So I gotta choose the newest one because I would, I like those that updated feel to it. So.
Well, mine's Melee, so I think you're alone in the fight, Jesse. But
well, I am, but
But I respect that though. I do really enjoy the new one. The new one's probably number 2 on my list.
Yeah, it's number 2 on my list as well. I had way more fun with it than I thought I was gonna have.
Melee's classic. So, yeah.
Well, we've been Gentlemen Critics, and this has been us reviewing and talking about the Super Smash series. I hope you guys enjoyed. Watch our next video.